So in this little tutorial, what we're going to do is we're going to change the threshold for notifications, and we're going to make a change so that it's affected across an organization. In our example here, Noah would be considered an organization, or Alex would be considered an organization. So, and these are individual devices. So let's say I wanted to change when we get notified when memory hits a certain threshold, and we want that change to go across all the devices that have this metric. So I've gone ahead and selected the device on the left-hand side, and then I've selected the I guess they call it a device here, but the computer or the object or whatever it is. And then I've selected memory, and then here is the memory, specifically the individual metric. And I want to change used percent and active percent. I want to change these so that these are much higher than what they are now. I'm not too terribly concerned if it's really high. I don't want to be notified for this kind of thing unless it's pegged at 99.99%. So what I'm going to do is right click on here and do trigger tuning and adjust triggers. So admittedly, this is a really confusing interface. Application rules and value rules mean more like rules that apply to the application of the trigger, and rules that are based on the values, if that makes any sense. So what we're going to do is we're going to select value rules, and I've already done this ahead of time, so I'm going to show you, and it's going to but you would basically do the steps that I would do here. So you set the value rules for total RAM and active RAM, and for both of those we have a warning and impaired. So we have total RAM, warning and impaired, and then active RAM, warning and impaired. So basically a couple of different things to modify. So over here in value rules, I'm going to modify the total RAM utilization. I'm going to select the warning trigger, and I would otherwise add a rule. When I add a rule, I have an opportunity to set it across sites, so that would be everybody, but I don't want to do that. A device, so that would be beamers, but I could also apply it to all. The container, which is this thing over there, I guess that's what they call it, a container. The object, in this case it's RAM, but and that's what you see over here, but in the total RAM utilization we're talking about RAM. So these sections over here are blank, and this is where it gets confusing, because what you're going to be doing is setting your own X and Y values and your own condition. So you're basically creating a rule, a custom rule, that is an override from what kind of comes out of the box. So in this case, I may change this to, for the warning, I want to set this to, say, maybe 95.00%. Don't put the percent here because it's implied when the system knows that you're talking about percentages. So don't put percent here because you just need the number. And so the Y value would be something like I don't know, maybe between really what I want. The argument is between the X and Y values. So obviously I'll need an X and a Y value, and maybe I want 99%, and maybe I want this for 36,000 seconds, and the effect will make it at risk and the trigger will be enabled. I'm not going to hit add because I've already done this. So when you do that, it adds it over here, and you can see that this is my rule here, my value rule, which you can see this is when it gets applied, and so it shows what I've actually done already. Out of the box, this is a much lower figure. This when it gets shipped from the factory, this is something like 80%. So you get a warning or a risk if it's like at 80% to 90%. But this changes all the time, especially on Mac servers, and really isn't something that we want to concern ourselves with, or at least not until it's a much higher threshold. So I've made the changes already for total RAM utilization, and I've created this rule here that applies to all in the site of Noah and the devices, and then for memory over here and the X and Y values, and then I've lengthened the duration Um, and and once you configure that, it'll apply those over here. But interestingly enough, it doesn't apply it automatically. It won't apply it until you restart the lithium console or the lithium processes. So over on the server, it has to be started. It isn't something that you could do from the lithium console. You have to do it from the lithium server itself. And then once it all starts up, it'll apply your value rules, the custom value rules that you've added over here. So I did the same thing for so in this case, the condition is greater than, the argument is greater than 99% for 3600 seconds. And then I want it to be triggered. And I did the same thing for active RAM utilization, and I just happened to use the same values. Once I've added those. Now, if I ever wanted to change this, note that there's no edit rule over here. Originally, I was deleting this custom rule and then re-adding it, and that's a pain in the butt. It wasn't until I discovered that you actually have an edit rule button over here. So the trigger for impaired, or the condition impaired, and the argument is if it's greater than X value, and I've supplied my X value for more than 3600 seconds, and trigger this. And whatever it's set to do, it'll do. So you hit these and you'll see that it'll spin, it'll apply it, but like I said, it doesn't become in effect until the lithium processes on the lithium server are restarted. And so that's basically how you do it. So now all across those that actually have memory and here you can see that it has already been added. My custom rule has been applied to all devices. Now, if I wanted to do an exception, I could actually add a custom rule and accept out. So in this case, I might say device SIPSR home is an exception to the all. So I can do it that way. So just I'm not sure whether or not this is a pecking order, but I know that if I do an exception, in fact, I could override the blanket value rules by just making the changes myself here on the machine.